protocol we are building. First mover advantage on crypto blockchain for the domain name space. So give a big round of applause to these guys. All right. Come on, guys, you can do better. A bigger one. Come on. All right.
Hey, thanks, Anand. I think we're missing some slides here. So I'll wait for the slides to come up. Yeah, but welcome everyone to Dominion. You're probably thinking, how soon can I get to lunch? So we'll try to make this fast. Also, this is not just two engineers, talking for 30 minutes. We'll have Richard come on stage too, so you won't be bored the whole time. I do want to talk about Doma today. It's a brand new chain that was launched today, and for us, we see it as a brand new way to actually evolve domain infrastructure. Where is the domain infrastructure? We heard a lot of stuff today. You saw Fred speak, Michael speak, and you'll actually see a lot of other speakers after this. Every few years, people are like, our domain's stagnating, our domain's doing this, our domain's doing that. Is the industry dying? It's not. The domain industry has pretty consistently grown over the last few years. Every single time you think of a new product, it pushes the industry forward. At this point, domains are the real estate of the internet. We can debate all day long, but there is not a single asset out there that is equivalent to the internet real estate. And why is that? Domains are used by everything. You start a business, what do you do first? You go look for a domain. You do not start a business these days without a domain name in mind. Your brand, your business is always backed by a domain. Sounds like real estate to me. You will hear the one football team kind of come up on stage and talk about their thing. That's identity. Where is the biggest growth in domains going to come? It's going to be identity. People, especially Web3 communities, really see domains as a way to express themselves. This is not just about a website. Oh, I own website abc.com, but this is who I am as a person, on-chain and off-chain. You will actually see a lot of people building apps. You heard about parking. You heard about yield based on domains. There's a ton of ways to make and monetize your domains today. And there are a ton of ways people cannot do today just because of the way domains are set up. But the reality remains, domains are the OG NFT that generate yield for a lot of folks sitting in this room, I'm sure. You also heard from the Frax team, AI. Where does AI sit? Where is the data that you're scraping to train all your models sitting? It's sitting on a website behind a domain. It's not sitting on chain. You're not putting your training data on Solana. You're putting the reference to the training data on Solana. We have friends from our Filecoin here today. They're doing the same thing. All of AI models, where are they coming from? Data, training, inference, everything's coming from the web, backed by a domain for the agents. So this industry, long story short, is not going away anywhere. If anything, the industry is right now at almost like a stagnation point. And I want to first talk about that this industry is slow because it's a great industry. If you think about it, over the past 40 years, domains have existed. We have done a lot of good things. We've had representation from country-level TLDs, other TLDs. So we've been pretty consistent in making a standard domain infrastructure. We do not need to reinvent DNS. But because it's such a critical infrastructure, it's also very slow-moving. So we don't see the infrastructure improving at any noticeable pace. What does that mean for us? People Fred owns software.ai. Richard is going to talk about hockey.com. They're just sitting there in their account with their registrar doing nothing, literally doing nothing. They're trapped. They're literally trapped there. Every domainer in the room can feel this pain. You have trapped liquidity in your domain. You know it's worth something, a lot, but it's just sitting there trapped. What can you do with it? Nothing. Maybe you can put up parking. Maybe you can do one or two other things. But there are not really a lot of applications. You can't go to an app store for domains and be like, oh, what should I try today? Like, that's just not possible. They're just sitting there in their own little world doing nothing. And why is that? I think it all boils down to the developers, right? At the end of the day, imagine you're trying to build a brand new app. You want to take a loan on a domain. Oh, people who are familiar with registrars, registries, they can appreciate how hard that would be. You have literally no standard API access. You have no ways to access the domains. There's no standards. You have to go integrate with escrow.com, this.com, every registrar you want to support, and things like that. And then that's it. That's the one app. You spend all this time to build one app. You can't do anything with it after that. It's just sitting there again, doing nothing. And everyone today touched upon this. Fred touched upon it. Michael touched upon it. We have tried to solve this problem. We tried to solve this problem by coming up with random tokenization standards that had nothing to do with DNS. So we were literally trading NFTs that just were NFTs that worked on chain, and that's it, like nothing. We also tried to build standards that did not solve for people who are actually in the domain industry. If you're a registrar, your registry, you want to be like DNS compliant. You want to be ICANN compliant. You can't just take some random NFT sitting somewhere and jam it in because of some Google plugin or Brave browser. You want it to work for real. So these NFTs, these names were completely misaligned. And this is where I think blockchains come in. I'm a big fan of blockchains, as you can all tell. But blockchains over the last decade have become really standard. At this point, you don't have to think about, am I building on Solana? Am I building on Avalanche? You're just building. There is a very standard layer across the entire industry. And not just that, there's a maturity in the industry. From Frax to USDC to like a million other like DeFi protocols, we have actually proven that we can move billions of dollars at the speed of internet. No like sitting, waiting for such stuff to settle. You literally have building blocks that can be used right then and there. And this is exactly where Doma comes in. Doma as a chain, the goal is to basically take everything on the left, all your domains, all your complex integrations, and just make it really simple. As a developer, you shouldn't be worrying about, hey, how do I integrate into registrars? What's EBP? What's the life cycle of a domain? When it's going to do this, when it's going to do that. Let's just keep it simple. Let's give you standard blockchain and APIs to do what you need to do to build upon these tokens. But we don't want to stop there. And you'll hear Kai talk about this right after this. The goal is to actually empower developers to build on domains, not just as a whole, but in different forms. Can you use DNS access of a domain separately from ownership? Can you take out a loan on a domain while it's still being used in a different application? So this way, you can actually build upon blockchains a lot faster without having to worry about, like, hey, where is the domain sitting? Who's using it? How's it being used? And this really accelerates the development of key infrastructure to bring new apps on chain. With that, I'll welcome Kai on stage. He's our VP of engineering, and he's spearheading a lot of what you'll see today.
Thanks, Inder. So what makes Doma unique is that it's designed from the ground up to be fully compatible with the existing domain ecosystem. So first and foremost, we think about ICANN compliance. Doma ensures that the domain state and ownership is always kept in sync on the blockchain and avoids some of the problems that prior Web3 naming experiments have resulted in, such as split ownership or alt naming systems. Doma also extends the traditional governance frameworks onto the blockchain. So for example, Doma smart contracts have the ability to burn or transfer on-chain assets in response to an off-chain dispute coming from like a UDRP. And finally, Doma will provide easy-to-use APIs and SDKs for any registrar or registry to tokenize domains onto the blockchain and abstract away a lot of the complexities. Let's take a closer look at the Doma stack, which consists of 3 foundational layers. Forming the base is the blockchain layer, featuring Doma Chain, a blockchain that's purpose-built for domain infrastructure. Above this sits the tokenization layer, which securely on-ramps domain assets onto the blockchain. These on-chain assets are then financialized through smart contract primitives, which developers can then use as Lego blocks to build the next-gen DomainFi applications. And this opens up a whole new set of possibilities for how domains can be traded, monetized, and leveraged on the blockchain. Let's dive a little deeper into the tokenization layer, which serves as a bridge between the traditional domain infrastructure and Web3. So Doma's APIs not only allow domain operators to tokenize their domains on the blockchain, but also provide callbacks to listen for events that happen on-chain. And this bidirectional bridge helps ensure synchronization of all the domain metadata and state. So any updates to a domain in an ICANN registry, such as a transfer or renewal, are reflected on-chain. And likewise, any on-chain activities, such as NFT marketplace sale, is reflected back into the ICANN registry. And as Inder mentioned, one of the powerful benefits of bringing domains on the blockchain is composability. And by representing domains as NFTs, we can mint new token types with different ownership and access right models and use these to build novel new use cases and applications. So at its core, the financialization provides a lot of the same primitives that power DeFi today. So things like liquid trading, oracles, borrow lending. But what's unique about Doma primitives is they're specifically designed to work with domain assets and take into account things like expiration dates and transfer lock statuses. Just like how DeFi protocols work today across all different blockchains, Doma protocol will also be cross-chain interoperable, and Doma Chain provides native bridging of assets across all major L1 and L2 blockchains. And while DeFi was able to revolutionize digital money, we believe Doma will do the same for the domain industry and create the new economy we're calling DomainFi. We're obviously very bullish about the future and bringing domain infrastructure on-chain. We believe this will unlock access to not just increased liquidity, but a thriving user and developer ecosystem in Web3. And with the power of smart contract programmability, we believe novel use cases can be created on-chain, such as fractional ownership, where retail users can own a piece of a premium domain. Borrow and lending protocols become automated through smart contracts and using domains as collateral. And leasing and lease-to-own models are particularly relevant in Web3, where attention spans are short. And finally, by bringing parking revenue on-chain, we can imagine turning domains into yield-bearing assets that can then be deposited into vaults with automated trading strategies. So these are just a few examples, but we hope the developer community will come up with even more innovative ideas that we haven't thought of. And speaking of innovative ideas, I'd like to next bring up our guest, Richard Lau. We'll be talking about unlocking the value of one of his premium domains using DomainFi.
Great. I thought I should perhaps begin by introducing myself for a minute or two to explain or really justify why I'm up here today. I'm Richard Lau from the traditional domain space. I registered my first domain back in 1996, July 11th, before some of you were born. I've created and sold dozens of registrars, created the largest domain industry conference called NamesCon. Has anyone been there? Thanks for your support. And I personally own thousands of traditional .com domains. I think that all that together qualifies me as like a father figure, especially since I probably registered my first domain before some of you were even born. The internet, oh, sorry. I guess I should get my slides up. Here we go. Right. Okay, perfect. The internet began with domains serving as simple web addresses. But they've evolved into valuable digital assets. Today, we stand at the cusp of another transformation, one that's going to unlock the unlock the true financial potential of domain names. Through DomainFi, powered by the DOMA protocol, we're introducing sophisticated financial instruments to the domain ecosystem. So what's the domain asset challenge? Domain owners, like me, face a fundamental paradox. Our assets hold significant value, but the value remains largely inaccessible. It's like we're stuck in the corner of a room or a penalty box. Premium domains like hockey.com, I'm Canadian by the way, represent substantial digital real estate. Yet traditional ownership structures offer limited options for us for extracting the value or the liquidity. So this challenge becomes particularly acute when we consider that domain name values can range from, a few hundred or a few thousand, but to millions of dollars. Lowering the barriers to entry for this couldn't have come at a better time, for me personally. So how do we unlock the digital value? Premium domains like hockey.com, in this example, represent substantial digital real estate. Yet the traditional ownership structures, they offer limited options for us to extract that value or the liquidity. So, hockey, it's 600 million fans globally. Sometimes we just think about the NHL, but there's hockey leagues all over the world. The NHL alone grosses over $6 billion in revenue every year. But hockey.com, it's got one owner. One controlling owner, no revenues, and limited working capital. So my hands are tied. So we've got the DomainFi solution. DomainFi creates new opportunities tailor-made for both domain owners and investors through tokenization. So we've got fractional ownership. Oh. Make sure I've got the right thing here. Fractional ownership. So we're democratizing access. Let me just make sure I've got the right slide going here. So we're democratizing access to premium domains while providing liquidity options for the current owners. So through smart contract-based ownership management, we're going to be enabling partial ownership of these valuable domains, similar to how REITs revolutionized real estate investments. So I can now find new capital partners in an instant without needing to go through any complex fundraising processes with the middlemen involved. So the blockchain will accelerate the forefront of this consumer discovery. So doing transactions on chain means more transparency, fair costs, and faster settlement times. I no longer need to wait for the tedious process of transacting through clunky Web 1 interfaces. So that brings us to the opportunity. Let's explore how DomainFi transforms the domain ownership through a real-world example. Can you guess the domain? Hockey.com. Okay, so the owner seeks $5 million in funding, as an example, to develop hockey into a commercial asset. Now, I'm just going to stop for a minute and just go a little off script. I've developed resume.com, built it up, 15 employees, sold it to Indeed. That took 7 years, and it was bootstrapped, and it was a struggle. But it was profitable. I'm doing the same currently with logo.com, currently at 13 employees, all based in Vancouver, onshore development, very expensive, very, very difficult, and it's bootstrapped. With hockey.com, I want to do something similar, right? I've got a few ideas. I could sell the ownership, raise fundraising using the asset as collateral. So now I can conduct an innovative auction methodology, right? I could sell fixed ownerships through an auction, like 5% a day, with a continuous fractional auctions. As more users purchase the asset, the continuous auction proceeds are distributed back to the current holders as rewards. In the long run, a strategic buyer in that instance could buy out the whole domain with a supermajority of ownership. On the flip side, I could collect one or multiple or thousands of bids on chain, essentially crowdsourcing the fundraising at various different LTVs or APRs. The great thing about the on-chain lending is that the interest can be collected in many different ways, which gives me more flexibility and control over working capital. So tokenization is secured by the programmatic escrow to ensure the asset is collateralized in case of failed repayment. Hey, I might not succeed. I've got a good track record, but you need the infrastructure that D3 is putting forward here to establish that trust. Trust me, but verify. So I'm excited for DomainFi because it can enable the development of hockey.com to be a real commercial asset. I bought it because I believe in the industry of hockey, just because I'm Canadian. I can't name more than a half a dozen hockey players, but I still believe in the business behind hockey. So I've got ideas, right? Build a sports betting platform, partnering with the NHL to promote hockey, developing a fantasy sports application, and or becoming a media outlet. It's not necessarily just one single thing, but these are things that we can work on together to build this. So I can take this strategy and then apply it to thousands of other premium domains. So just like we all want to buy a piece of Apple, NVIDIA, or maybe DeepSeek, we can now all do so with domain names. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Richard. I guess there were more slides. Richard believes in hockey. I believe in Richard, by the way. And I actually believe in a lot of people in this room. And why is that? I will say for being such a trapped asset, the domain industry has done a phenomenal job of actually thinking of very interesting use cases. And I think as engineers, as builders of infrastructure, it's our responsibility to kind of rise up to the challenge and give you guys better products to actually use. We have failed as a team if we don't deliver these brand new applications. And this is where I think, I'm super excited to talk about our internal preview. So the chain is live right now in DevNet. We are working with some very key players. You'll hear a lot of them talk over the next 24 hours. And during this phase, we're also trialing a lot of new features, right? So we're talking about wallet mapping. So again, not the fake domains, but how literally a website can be your wallet. We're talking about marketplaces. Michael even mentioned it. Aftermarket remains a very big opportunity to help make it simpler, better user experience, faster settlement, get everyone in the industry faster. But we're most excited about what's coming next, right? The next is the testnet. And one reason blockchains are so popular is that they're a standard interface to build innovation. You're not working with D3 to build innovation. Once it's on chain, you're working with literally thousands of developers out there who are actually looking to build on an open ecosystem. This is not about a single company. This is not about a single domain. It's about the whole ecosystem getting opened up to blockchain systems. So every blockchain application, including those meme coin ones, should be able to use domains in the same manner. You should be able to innovate in the same manner on those domains. So we're super excited to see where the community takes us, not just us, and what innovation comes out of the industry. So we are live today. You are welcome to go to doma.xyz to learn more. I would also love to talk to anyone who's here. We are right now focusing on industry participants, so think like registrars, registries, or developers. If you're building in the domain ecosystem, Web 2, Web 3, doesn't matter. Similarly, if you're a domain owner, you have a large portfolio of domains, let's talk. I want to learn, what is your vision? Again, I want to reiterate, this is not about DOMA, this is not about D3, but we want to learn, hey, what is the problem that we're solving? This is not a chain that is a solution looking for a problem. We want to solve real problems here. So go to doma.xyz, sign up for the testnet. We would love to hear from you. And I think we still have a few more minutes, so if there are any questions, I'm happy to take that. Yeah, the question was, are there any gas fees? How are you handling it? And how are they on the native chain? So that's a great question, by the way. People who are in crypto, they already know, gas fees, right? Instead of getting points when you swipe your card, which comes up from someone's, the merchant's bill, you actually pay the gas fees to actually do something that you own. So it's an ethos that's built into chains from day one. Again, DOMA being a special purpose blockchain, our emphasis remains on really low gas fees with certainty that, hey, if I'm trying to do something, it wouldn't be $1 or even 5 cents. It'll be really cheap because we understand that's what the industry needs. The gas fees are also native to the chains that the apps are on. I can't say this enough, it's an open ecosystem. If you're using a chain on Ethereum, you'll be subject to the Ethereum fees. You're opening up yourself there. But if you're using Avalanche, then the fees are actually pretty good. Same with DOMA, the fees are going to be fairly low. Yeah, we are not publicly talking about it right now. The gas token is going to be ETH, because why not, right? And then, yeah, so for now, it's basically an L2 that's using ETH as the gas token.
So I'm a registrar, and so if I want to tokenize domain names for my customers, does the registry operator need to be a participant in your ecosystem?
The question was, if I'm a registrar, do you need the registry to be a participant in the tokenization ecosystem? The short answer is no, but I will say that there is, I think you yourself can appreciate it's a very complicated system, right? Because I think you want to be on the right side of all the parties involved, not just the registry. So, short answer is no, but I think this deserves, a deeper understanding of your use case. Yeah. So the question is, how is it fully compliant, and what does that even mean? How is it solving the synchronization issues with DNS? So I think for us, there's a few things. One, there cannot be a conflict. If you're on DOMA, there cannot be a .com that's not a real domain. So if I have a token in their .com, I need to own the domain in their .com. I can't just willy-nilly go print out random TLDs, SLDs, or anything. So that's one. Two, if you are a registrar, your user should be the owner of the NFT and vice versa. So any on and off-chain event, that's where the Web2 bridge comes in, synchronizes it. Web2 is the authoritative source. So there cannot be a token without a domain. The domain needs to exist first, and then you can tokenize it. You cannot sell the domain without destroying the token. The token and the domain are one, and the domain goes first before the token in all cases. Yep. Yep. Yeah, the question is, how do you stop the change of owner? I will say, like, one, we're out of time, but I think these are great questions because I don't want to trivialize the ways in which ownership can change by giving, like, a blanket answer saying this is the way, you solve that, right? 100%, yeah. That is the question. So, yeah. Yeah, so I think the decoupling cannot happen. That is one guarantee that we want to have. So if you're a user, you do want the token to be driven by the registrar, not by yourself. The domain is owned by the registrant, who is the user. Right. That is correct. So, like I said, I think these are really good questions. I don't think I can cover what we're thinking about it, but would love to get in a room with you and walk you through the whole process. But I do want to say the reason that these questions are here is exactly why DOMA exists. This is why you can't use Ethereum, because if you just had an NFT, what if the registrar changed the registrant? What if the owner the token got transferred to a random wallet? What does the registrar do then? There are all these questions, and these are really good questions. And this is precisely why we have a special chain called DOMA versus just saying, hey, go tokenize on Solana or Ethereum directly. But thank you again very much. I wish I had more time here, but I appreciate you all coming to this presentation.